But today we have Loudon Richardson, who is the SVP of Strategic Partnership at Sogo and currently leads the partnership team at Sogo as they help over 100 credit unions engage and educate their next generation of members. We also have David Bird from New England Federal Credit Union, and David joined New England Federal Credit Union in 2020 as the digital marketing manager. He oversees the marketing department at the credit union and has over 11 years of experience in digital marketing and client experience, working primarily with enterprise and OEM clients. He is a native Vermonter who enjoys hanging out with his kids, visiting local restaurants, biking, and playing soccer. And I really appreciate everybody joining us today. And if anybody has anything that they want to say, they can or questions to ask, they can type it in, or they can just stop us and we can answer the questions. Well, thank you, Loudon and David, and take it away.
All right, I will get started. I'm Loudon, like Christine said, leading the partnerships team over at Sogo. I'm going to share my screen and walk through a presentation talking through who is Gen Z, how do you reach Gen Z, how have we reached Gen Z at Sogo over the few years that we've been doing so through our gamified financial literacy app. And then I have David here, who we're really lucky to have join us, who's going to answer some questions about how they think about reaching young people and how they leverage Sogo as a tool to get in front of that younger generation. Cool. So with that, I will go ahead and share my screen. All right. So to kick things off, we have a smaller group. So if anyone has questions, please put them in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself and just ask the question. I'd love for this to be as interactive as possible. So please interrupt me at any point. Would love to answer questions there. And I really wanted to start this off with our story at Sogo from the beginning, because I think it's pretty relevant to how young people think about credit unions and how Gen Z in general does. Because a lot of people at Sogo, we are Gen Zers, and we came across credit unions first in high school because, as many of you know, credit unions across the country do programs in high school where they're teaching a financial literacy course. The problem was that when we were in high school, we didn't pay any attention to this presentation. So we were sitting in the classroom, playing on our phones, falling asleep in the back, not realizing the importance of this information and how much our local credit union could help us in terms of building a successful financial future. And when we got to college, we realized that, we don't know anything and none of our friends knew anything about finance, and we were looking for someone we could trust. So we built an app to try to teach financial literacy through a gamified bite-sized format that meets people on their phone rather than delivering it in a lecture style, because people are spending a lot of time on their phones today. It's how they're consuming information. So this is a picture back in the day when Sogo was first created, and you can see the ages of the people in the room. We were trying to design something that would teach information in the right way for our generation. And so we built this gamified financial literacy app alongside the Common Sense Lab at Duke University. And we used behavioral economics to build something that people were really going to engage with and use. However, we were looking for a partner to help distribute this out to young people. And at the time, we didn't even know who credit unions were. So I have an attachment here of an email from one of our investors that says we're a perfect fit for credit unions. And you'll see that we actually didn't know what credit unions were. Like, who is a credit union? Like, why should we be reaching out to them? And so we did some research and found that these are pretty incredible not-for-profits that could add a lot of value for people in our generation. Our theory was just people our age do not know what credit unions do and do not even know how you could go about joining one if you wanted to do so. And so I think that kind of is telling about the state of affairs for credit unions in terms of young people. The biggest problem that we see on our side is brand awareness. Like, getting in front of this younger generation and sharing who you are is the first step, because a lot of young people are looking for this. And as you'll see when I go into more background on Gen Z, the values of Gen Z are very aligned with the values of credit unions. And from our perspective, the biggest gap is just building that awareness of what credit unions do for this younger generation. So today we're working with over 100 credit unions, as Christine mentioned, and we started 2 years ago working with 0 credit unions. So we've had a lot of traction in the industry, and we've helped credit unions get in front of and engage with this younger generation. And I think we've learned some lessons that aren't just relevant to our product, but are relevant to credit union strategy in general for reaching the Gen Z and the millennials of the world. Okay, so to kick things off, I want to invite David to join us. I have a few prompting questions for him about how New England Federal Credit Union thinks about Gen Z and how they thought about it when they were first considering Sogo at the beginning of this year. So David, my first question for you, and thank you for joining us, is what challenges were you experiencing at NEFQ when you were first considering Sogo?
Yeah, thank you, Loudon, and thank you, Christine. As we were really going into 2020, along with all the other credit unions represented here, we were experiencing some challenges around scaling financial education, particularly in an environment that rapidly went to a digital format. So I think of scale being a primary driver. I think this virtual environment also began to cause us to think about the types of tools that would be best positioned to meet the needs of our members and potential members. And then, Loudon, as you were talking about Gen Z, certainly a common theme for us now for quite some time is seeking out and identifying ways to better connect to that younger generation, really in a meaningful way.
Got it. Thanks, David. And then in terms of connecting with the younger generation, why is that a priority for NEFQ?
Yeah, great question. I think it's the future. I mean, really, when we look in a credit union context, all of our members are valuable. But if we're not reaching the next generation in a way that's meaningful and begins to instill trust and confidence with them, the long-term viability of the model begins to erode, right? And other institutions are standing by ready to step in and meet those needs of the members. So we see it as vitally important that we are reaching out and connecting to them.
Definitely. And you mentioned that finding something that was scalable was really important to you. What are some of the other strategies at NEFQ that you take to try to get in front of this generation, whether through Sogo or some of the other programs that you have?
We really try to embody a philosophy of understanding the member. So not necessarily coming, to the member with what we think is best, but it's taking some time to understand the unique personas that exist within our membership base, within the communities that we serve, the unique demographic differences, right? The differences between various communities. And when we think about the younger demographic, specifically Gen Z, as we've been talking about, there's a couple themes that continue to rise to the top. Those things such as being mobile delivery of educational content, gamification, which you mentioned earlier in the call, Loudon. This is a generation that is used to receiving educational content in forms that we're not necessarily, haven't necessarily used historically. On demand is important. This is a generation that is used to receiving information when they need it, really on their terms, right? Within a time frame that works for them. We wanted to make sure that we were aligning with that expectation with relevant educational content. And then I think the last thing that comes to mind is this idea of being bite-sized. Certainly we know that we're not going to be able to deliver the wealth of information that any individual needs in one bite-sized packet. But what we see as an opportunity is timely delivery of that information over time. So wherever they are in their particular journey, whether that's heading into college, just graduating from college, et cetera, making sure that we're coming into that moment of their journey with a packet of information that's helpful and relevant to that step.
Awesome. Thanks, David. And I will note that New England Federal was the first credit union in their area to pick up on Sogo and use it as a way to get in front of young people. And I'll bring David back later in the call to just touch on some of the strategies that they've used to get in front of that generation. And thank you for adding your perspective there. But before we dive into that, I do want to just give some more background on Gen Z and who they are and what they care about, because it's really important when you're thinking about the strategies that you're going to use to meet this generation. So just for background, Gen Z is anyone who's born after the year 1996. So people that are 24 and younger, it's really the younger generation today. And some quick facts: 9 to 23 years old, They're now 32% of the global population, and this is increasing over time. And 97% of them are smartphone users, which is just insane. And their spending power is already at 143 billion. And that's only going to continue to go up as they get into their late 20s and 30s. So they do have a lot of spending power and can have a pretty big impact on the assets of your credit union if you're getting in front of them and bringing them in as lifelong members. A couple other facts that are important is they've been shaped by both the Great Recession and COVID-19, which has really given them a tendency to open savings account at younger ages and be a little more cautious with their finances. There was a stat that of people aged 18 to 23, half of them had either themselves or someone in their family that lost a job because of COVID-19. So they've been through some pretty challenging events so far in their life, and it influences the way they think about finances. But they're also well on their way to being the highest level of education in any generation in terms of a number of education years that they're putting in. In terms of value, something that I'm sure you've heard is social responsibility is really critical to this generation. You can see in their actions, you can see in the things that they're saying. They're really looking for companies and things in their life that are consistent with the way they think about social issues. One quote that I think is important is that they're 3 times more likely to say that the purpose of business is to serve communities and society, which I think fits very well into the credit union's mission and the way that credit unions go about business. Another value that's critical to them is transparency. A couple questions that are big is, number 1, where is my money going? And number 2, who is it supporting? And there are some brands that have done this really well that I'm going to touch on outside of the financial institution space that have really made traction with Gen Z. The first of them is Everlane, and the second is Patagonia, both of which are apparel brands. But what they've done is they've brought transparency into their operations, and they tell all of their customers about exactly what they're doing. So if you go to Everlane's website, it's an apparel company, and you can see that if you click on a shirt, you can actually click on the details of the exact factory where Everlane got that shirt, how they chose to work with the factory, what factors went into the decision, and the different safety conditions that the factory has, and how that contributes to how the product was actually delivered to Everlane. And that's on every single product on their website. I would highly encourage you to go check it out. The amount of detail that they're including for everyone is astronomical, and I think really great. For Patagonia, they're an apparel brand, but if you go to their website, the first thing that you're going to see is their commitment to the environment. It's not, we have this great Patagonia sweatshirt, great deal, $99, whatever it is. It's that the future of energy is community owned, and showing how Patagonia's activism is communicating what their brand believes in. And so I think both of them, regardless of their stances on the issues, they're really being transparent about what they care about and showing that they're being responsible in the world and showing a great deal of social responsibility, which goes a long way with this younger generation. Another fact that I think is really important here is most Gen Zers do have a relationship with a bank or a credit union. Sometimes we hear that they're not quite ready, so why should we focus on them? But if you look at the stats, a lot of them do actually have a bank account, or at least have a joint account with their parents. So it's definitely not too early to start thinking about how to get in front of this generation and how to acquire them as members. The big question we had at the beginning after learning about credit unions is, why aren't there more Gen Z members in credit unions than in banks, since the credit union's values are so in line with what Gen Z is looking for? And the issue, like I said at the beginning, we think is brand awareness. So we did some surveys when we first started Sogo about what people know about credit unions. 76% of them said that they couldn't even tell you what a credit union is, which is just crazy to me that they don't know what credit unions are doing and the big impact that they're having. And I have some quotes here that I think are really illustrate how people think about it. So I've heard of them, I just never knew who they were, something to do with finance. I know we have a lot, but I don't know what they're doing or what they're used for, loans and stuff, ... I don't know. I don't know, like groups of people that help bring up your credit. So clearly pretty far off from what credit unions do. However, the good news is once we educate them on what a credit union is, the response is flip a switch. They're insane what the difference is. So it sounds good. What's the catch? Is there no catch? Why wouldn't everyone use it? I think it's like a nonprofit. They reinvest, and it makes me think highly of them, and value driven. All of this stuff is exactly what you want someone to think when they hear about a credit union. And it seems like that's exactly what young people think when you tell them about what credit unions actually do and open their eyes to the credit union mission. So together, our mission is to make Gen Z aware of credit unions. It's something at Sogo that we've been trying to do from the very beginning, is just get this mission in front of young people and let them know that this actually might be a great fit for them in terms of becoming a lifelong member and finding someone they can trust financially with their decisions and what they're doing with their money. So I have some strategies for how we reach them, but first I just want to take a brief pause and see if anyone has any questions for me or David.
And if you don't want to unmute, you can post it in the chat.
Perfect. And if you don't have any now, no worries. And Christine, if you could just monitor the chat and let me know if you come in, that would be amazing. Okay, so if there are no questions, I'm going to move on to some of the concrete steps that we think at Sogo that credit unions can take to reach Gen Z. The first one seems simple, but it's not as simple as you might think, is integrating Gen Z into your marketing strategy. So when you're coming up with a budget, it's budgeting season now. So when you're thinking about 2022, are you prioritizing Gen Z and having them as a specific action item in the budget? Because that goes a long way in terms of getting in front of them. Do you have strategies and tactics for reaching these new and younger members? And then looking at your product line, do you have products that are designed for young people and rewards that are relevant to what young people are looking for? We find a lot of times that there's not a good way for parents to bring their children into the credit union and establish that relationship at a younger age. So it's really important to think about what ways you have to leverage your existing membership and for the families in your credit unions to actually help bring in some of the young people that are in their family to join the credit union at a young age and start developing that relationship.
And we did get a question, and it is, what approach do you typically use when reaching younger prospects? Some I can think of are rather obvious. Keep your money local or be a member, not a customer. Anything else you can see as a selling point that directly applies to the younger folks?
Yeah, I think really emphasizing the values of your credit union. So financial literacy is one of them. Whether or not credit unions use Sogo or not, they usually do have some pretty great resources for financial education. So I would emphasize that. I would really emphasize the relationship building aspect of it. Young people are pretty clueless, as you can see, when it comes to finance. So really showing them that you can be the guiding light for them and teach them how to navigate the waters, I think goes a long way when trying to get in front of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Please keep them coming. So the second tip is delivering value via Gen Z's favorite accessory. You can probably guess what this is, but first I want to start off with the billboard. The first billboard came out in 1830, and when they first started, it was artists that were spray painting on the side of buildings, and it morphed into brands that were putting huge signs on the side of highways so people would see it as they pass by. And today there are over 350,000 of them in the US.
Loudon.
However,
Vermont, you can't use a billboard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're illegal.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is good because we're not recommending billboards. We think there's a
nice.
new kind of billboard out there, which is the mobile phone. So if you're driving on the highway and you look beside you, if you're in Vermont, they're definitely not looking at the billboards. But if you're in another state, they're also probably not looking at the billboards. They're probably looking at their mobile device, especially if they're young, because it's where young people are spending their time. It's where they're consuming information. And also the amount of time in a singular engagement is going to be different from a billboard, because it's not like it's 5 seconds. When people are on their phones, they're often on their phones for a few minutes at least. And so you have a lot more time to spread your message and get in front of the right people when you're meeting them on their phones. And so really consider how you can meet young people on their phones. Some stats that I wanted to share here is 98% of Gen Z owns a smartphone. 78% of them would consider their smartphone their most important device. And 75% of them spend more than 2 hours every single day just on their phone. So it is ample opportunity if you are on their phone to get in front of them and really capture their attention and share your story. So a couple other things related to this is make sure you're optimizing your website for mobile viewing. Not only is this going to help you with SEO on Google, but for a young person, there's a pretty high chance when they go to their website, it's not going to be on their laptop, it's going to be on their mobile phone. So you want the experience to be great for them still whenever they're on their mobile phone, and they can really learn about you and understand the products that you have. And it's not a bad interface when they're logging on their iPhone. And the second thing is, sorry, I got to move my little cursor here, is making mobile just a must for your credit union's online presence. Young people are going to be on mobile. Mobile is the future. They probably will still use their laptops for some things, but a lot of the ways that they're going to be consuming information, whether it's on your website, whether it's emails you're sending out, whether it's your social media, is probably going to be on their mobile phones. And so making sure that that's a priority for your credit union is really important. All right, next piece of this is gamification. This might surprise some of you, but over 90% actually, that's the new stat of Gen Zers identify themselves as gamers, which is just insane to think how many young people are playing games on their phone. And before 21, most Gen Zers have spent over 10,000 hours playing video games. And I think that's the number it takes to become an expert at something. So they are all experts at playing video games. And it's worth taking into consideration how you can take some of the principles of gamification, like setting goals, giving people paths for reaching goals, and applying it to some of the things that you're doing at the credit union. And then the last piece of this, at meeting Gen Z where they are, is keep in mind that they're curious and they love to learn, and they're adept researchers. And you can really take this to your advantage when you're sharing about your credit union and the things that you want to convey, because they do love to learn, and if you're offering something that gives them the opportunity to learn more, they probably will take advantage of it. So 3 things on the phone: gamification, adding some education. In our opinion, this is the new way of how young people are consuming information. And I have a couple images here of brands that I think do it extremely well. The first one you might have heard of is SoFi. It's a challenger bank, but what they've done really well is they have a rewards program in SoFi that takes advantage of a lot of these gamification principles in education. So if you see in SoFi, you have like diamonds at the top, and for doing different tasks, you earn diamonds. So one of them is a daily app login. One of them is a 4-day streak in a row. Another one is some education, so reading an article. And for doing these activities that are bringing value back to SoFi, SoFi is rewarding them with diamonds and adding that gamification loop. And it's done really well in terms of getting young people to buy into what they're doing and learn more about SoFi after they're already a member or customer of SoFi. The second company that I think has done it really well is Duolingo. It's a free language learning app that teaches almost any language in the world. But instead of teaching through a course, like most people would learn languages on something like Rosetta Stone, it teaches through very short bite-sized lessons and rewards people for getting stuff right. So you can see in the top, there are some crowns and some fires, just gamification elements that help people engage a little more deeply. And then they have hearts. So like when you get a question wrong, you're gonna lose the heart, and it makes it a little more fun. It's not like a game like Fortnite where you go on and it's a legitimate video game. That's really not what we're looking for. It's something that has some of those elements. Because if it were just a video game, they would just go play Fortnite. But you want to take some of the fun parts of Fortnite and some of the principles that they have and apply it to what you're doing at the credit union in terms of your product development and the ways that you're reaching young people. Okay, and step 3 of the 3 is cultivating authenticity. This quote, I think, illustrates it pretty well, is that Gen Z wants to participate in brands that they believe in and that they believe reflect them. So a few ways that Sogo, we recommend that you do this is, number 1, think about your newsletter and how you can revamp the newsletter. Number 2, really think about your referral program at the credit union and how you're incentivizing your current members to bring more members into the credit union. And number 3, and this is newer in the credit union space, but a lot of brands outside of credit unions have done it well for Gen Z, is thinking about brand ambassadors and how young people as brand ambassadors can help you get in front of even more young people. So good starting point for the newsletter is simplification and curation. And a brand that does this extremely well that you might be aware of is Morning Brew. They have a 40% open rate on their newsletter, which is, if you know anything about open rates on newsletters, is unbelievable in terms of the people that they're sending it out to. And the newsletter is extremely short. So it takes no more than 5 minutes to read. It's catchy. It takes the news of the day and then tries to put it into digestible, bite-sized chunks that any person, if they're in the car, if they're just staying at home for a few minutes in the morning, they could just scroll through Morning Brew, engage with our content, and it makes learning about the news actually pretty entertaining and fun. So they've done really well. I would highly recommend subscribing if you don't, just to see about some of their methods of delivery. I think credit unions newsletters can take some of the lessons from Morning Brew in terms of content structure and delivery and put that into your newsletter and increase the engagement of the people that are receiving it. Second piece here is reimagining referrals. credit unions, I think more than any other organizations out there, have the biggest fans. People that are part of credit unions are obsessed with their credit unions. And so our perspective is that you really just have to make sure that you're giving them a voice to spread the word about your credit union. One company that has done this extremely well is Robinhood. You've probably seen them in the news lately for the whole GameStop Reddit fiasco. However, they started out with a referral program where if you invited your friend to get on Robinhood, your friend got a free stock. And so it provided a very easy way for someone to spread the word about Robinhood, and then a very easy way for someone to join Robinhood and then immediately get started and earn the stock. And then the person that referred it would also get a stock. So similarly, credit unions can think about, not with stocks, but in some ways, like if you refer your friend to a credit union, is there a very easy way that you can do that, and an easy way you can spread the word about it? And are you benefiting in some way? Because you want to give people some sort of reward for spreading the word, because if you do that, they already want to tell people about the credit union because they love their credit union, and it just amplifies and accelerates the growth that you can see from a referral program. And Gen Z especially is very impacted by other people, especially their friends and family, more so than the generations above them, which makes a referral program even more powerful. And then right here, I have a chart that might be helpful, is the top brand discovery tools by generations. And you can see that Gen Zers are more influenced by family and friends than other generations. So they really are looking for this peer recommendation, peer approval. It goes a long way for them. And it's worth thinking about how you can enable that with some of the people that are already at your credit union as members. And then this is a news article from 2020, but I think it's pretty true, is everyone wants to know why people are so obsessed with credit unions, and some people don't realize it until they join one and see the major benefits of joining it. And we really just want to leverage that in the referral program. And here, you might know at Sogo, we love pineapple. So I just have a diagram with pineapples of the impact that something like this can have. So if there's some way for you to bring children into the credit union, and like maybe they're in high school and they start telling all their friends about the different things that you're doing, it really can have a pretty outsized impact on the membership reach that you can have at the credit union. And at Sogo, we've also put in a similar rewards program where if you invite someone to join Sogo, you get pineapples and you progress towards a Starbucks reward or whatever gift card you want to get. And it's been incredibly effective for us. So over 75% of the people on the app have come from referrals. So we haven't actually had to do any organic marketing of Sogo on social media, because people are spreading it to their friends because we're giving them rewards to do so. So it really is a powerful way to get more people involved. And we've seen it firsthand at Sogo with the referral program that we've implemented. Okay, last piece of this is newsletter, referral, and then hiring brand ambassadors. This is a representative and advocate for your credit union. If you go on any college campus today, you're going to see a lot of these. Lululemon has a bunch, Red Bull has a bunch, Bumble has a bunch. They're all over college campuses. They hire students, and their whole job is just to spread the word about the brand. And credit unions can also do this. If you find young people either in high school or in college, they think about it as an internship. So it really does provide value to the young people that are doing it. Even if it's not paid a lot, it provides value that it's something they can put in their resume. They're working with a credit union, or they're working with one of these brands to help them grow their audience and really market their product. And then their job is to spread the word. So it's just creating a more formal way for a referral program to work, and that you have these people who have legitimate internships with your credit union, and then their job is to spread the word with all of their friends and get their friends and families involved with the credit union as well.
So would you say like an influencer on, that TikTok or something?
Yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. Similar to that, but it doesn't have to be someone who's famous. Like it can just be any person in your local high school or local college that wants to spread the word. Influencers are great. It'll definitely help your reach more than something like this. Sometimes it costs a little bit more to get an influencer than to just get someone in the local high school or college, but I think both are really effective ways to spread the word. All right, any questions about any of these 3 steps for really getting in front of Gen Z and meeting them where they are, cultivating authenticity, and really implementing some of these programs to help you get in front of Gen Z?
I really agree with you with the brand ambassador, because when my daughter goes to UVM and you only see those 3 products that you have listed, and that's all she talks about. And I was like, so they are influencing these kids, and if they can, if you can get a brand ambassador to influence, in the right direction with the credit union, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, and it really helps with brand awareness, especially with college students. College students love free things more than anything in the world is giving them free stuff. If you go to any college club fair, you'll see the table people spend their time at is the one that has free bags or free ice cream or whatever they're offering for free. That's the one the college students are going to flock to.
Oh, yeah. Does anyone have any questions about? No?
No worries if there are no questions. Feel free to email me as well at the end. I'm happy to have a separate conversation about some of this stuff. But I want to bring David back and ask him a few more questions about Zogo specifically and how they've leveraged Zogo. So David, to start it off, how has Zogo in general helped you get in front of younger generations?
Loudon, it's given us an opportunity to meet them on their mobile device. I loved your slide kind of articulating that as the new billboard. Zogo's created a very robust user interface. It's slick, it's easy to use, and it's allowed us to leverage that with this generation.
Awesome. And then in terms of the actual product, have you heard anything about your members or people in the community about their experience on the app yet?
We have. We've gotten very positive feedback about the app. I've got actually 2 quotes here. I'll just read it to you as an example. This is from Tegan. Tegan says, "The app's been great. I've been able to make some money while also learning about how to manage finances, which is super useful for me as I'm about to turn 18 and go to college." So we talked about earlier aligning with where they're at in their journey. This allows us to connect with that individual, right, and give them relevant content at that stage. We had one other one I'll share with you. This one says, "I love the concept of getting rewards through financial literacy. I'm in my early 20s, so learning all of these things is really important." So again, right in that demographic that you were talking about, and they're clearly seeing value in the solution.
Awesome. I love this.
Now, David, have you been seeing people, your members actually refer other young kids to this app? We have, and the referral element within, I think there's additional opportunity for us there. But yes, we have seen that be an effective tool. Oh, good.
Yeah, you'll notice that with Zogo, one of the biggest things that we recommend is getting all of your members on there, because we have that strong referral mechanism that they'll refer their friends onto Zogo just because they're getting rewarded for it with these pineapples and progressing towards that gift card. So David, quick question about the launch with Zogo. I don't want to go too in depth about the product and make this a sales pitch, but I do want to give the audience a sense of what it takes to get up and running. So what was the launch like with Zogo? And then how much time has it required from you and your team since the launch?
It was very smooth from a product launch perspective. It was very smooth, and Zogo has been a great partner, I think, in not allowing a smooth launch to mean a reason not to communicate. They've communicated and partnered with us very closely from the beginning, but the effort needed from our team to stand it up was light.
Awesome. And then after launch, how much time would you say it takes you and your team on a weekly basis to really keep this going and make sure you have initiatives to reach people in the community?
I don't know that I could put an exact timestamp on it. I think the way I would describe it is that we've incorporated it into our planning, and it's really about how do we continue to keep that Zogo narrative in front of our audiences. It's really not the management of the tool. It's more about which is a benefit. I look at that as a positive. It's allowed us to really spend more time strategically saying how do we leverage this tool in front of more individuals. Yeah,
that's how we like to think about it too. And then in terms of recommendations. Do you have any advice for credit unions that might be considering Zogo or something like Zogo to help them get in front of younger generations?
I guess I would encourage other credit unions to continue to explore solutions and be willing to think, probably think a little bit outside of the box. We're at a time of pretty rapid transformation, but the fundamentals of delivering relevant content really are foundational to the credit unions, right? And serving these communities. So I would say continue to explore and look for, solutions that are best going to deliver that.
Awesome. I love that. All right, I want to open it up. Christine or anyone else on the call, do you have any questions for David about what he's doing in NEFQ or some of the stuff that he's done with Zogo so far?
I think that it's amazing that New England Federal is doing something for the younger generation because, David, I know I've talked to you about, different things that my kids have experienced. And I think putting this app in front of them is a great tool, and they'll be able to manage their money, their learning. They're also, they're thinking that they're playing a game and they're earning something from it. And so I think it just benefits everybody all around. And I'm glad that we have a credit union in Vermont offering this. And I'm sure you're getting a lot of kids, friends that are, doing this as well, from your referrals.
I agree, Christine, and I would add to it. I know that the focus here is Gen Z, but we certainly see other age groups enjoying the app. It's not just from our perspective, it doesn't only apply to this group. We are seeing, certainly other age groups benefiting from the app and really enjoying that experience as well.
Now, has any schools reached out to you about this?
We've had a few conversations. I think it's an area we continue to explore about how best to position that. I thought, Loudon, your comments were good, and certainly, Christine, something we continue to explore as things begin to open up. This past year was it was just challenge. It was certainly a challenging environment, but we don't want to lose sight of that.
Yeah, and I have two comments there. The first one is across age groups, that's something that we see with all of our partners, is that we first built this for young people because that was who we were and where we saw the need. But we found pretty quickly that the need is much greater than just Gen Zers. Like, everyone can use at least a little bit of financial education. People are starting at different places in their financial lives. And Zogo, we like to think it's fun for everyone, no matter what your age is. So we have Gen Zers, we have millennials, we have Gen X, we have older too. And about the school piece, the way we like to think about Zogo with some of your current initiatives is to try to tack it on to what you're doing in the community and think about it as a continued leave behind. So rather than giving someone a flyer about your credit union when you're leaving an event, this is something that you can give them and they can leverage long after the event. So they hear about it, after the event, and then after the event, they're playing the game for weeks and months on end. So they continue to engage with you and some of the stuff that you're doing for the community.
Oh, that's a good point. And does anybody else want to make any comments or have any questions? I found this very insightful, and I think, Loudon, what your company is doing for our credit unions and our members it's really amazing, and it looks like it's something that's going to be able to go on forever and ever, because a game usually never gets old, and you can add more content to it. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yep. And so it will grow as you go.
Yep. So we add 5 lessons every single month to the app. And then our credit unions can also add in some of their own lessons. So most of them add some at the very beginning, really giving some background on who they are, why they've decided to sponsor the app. And then they can put some of the initiatives they're doing as part of the education as well.
That's nice. And then they get to really know who the credit union is that they're working with and what their mission statement is.
Yeah. Because brand awareness, like I said, is something that we're really focused on, is really trying to get people to understand what credit unions do. And why it might be a good fit for someone as they're considering who their primary financial institution should be.
Yes, no, I agree. And David, I really appreciate your time and telling us about your success and how credit unions can utilize Sogo. And I really appreciate everyone's time here. And if anybody wants further information, they can just reach out to me and I will connect them.
Great. Yeah. Thank you everyone for coming, and everyone on the recording that'd be watching after this. Please feel free to reach out, even if it's just to have a conversation about your strategy. It doesn't need to be about Sogo. Would love to connect and talk about how you're thinking about young people.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you,
Have a
Loudon.
good day.
See you
Bye-bye.
all. Thank you.